to you. Let's do this. Let's think about this question. Okay, so in macroeconomics, fiscal policy refers to taxing and spending, usually the legislative body in whatever country you're in. And so the question here looks like, why is a tax cut going to have a lower effect than direct fiscal spending or direct government spending? So the way to think about this is, if the government spends some money and immediately gets injected into the economy, say they spend money on a bridge or something, right? They build the bridge, that money has to be spent. Now you could have a situation where you get some leakage, where money doesn't get quite to the project, but we assume that there's some kind of adjustment for that. Whereas with a tax cut, if you cut say household taxes by 10%, people are going to save some of that. So they're not going to immediately spend that money, go through the investment part of the economy, which is a little slower than direct spending. Okay? Now, to illustrate this in a lot of classes, usually there's what's called the fiscal spending multiplier and the tax multiplier. So I'm going to call this fiscal spending multiplier. And what that is we're going to divide 1 by what's called the MPS, which is the marginal propensity to save. So it's the inverse, basically, of the spending function. Okay? And so we've got a situation where marginal propensity to consume, let's say that's 0.8. That's the additional spending that we'll do based on additional income. So 0.8. That means that the marginal propensity to save is 0.2. And if you want to know more about the relationship between these two, there's other videos that can go over that. But you got that. The tax multiplier, I'll call that TM, is going to be negative MPC over MPS. Okay, so let's calculate those two things here in blue. Okay, so the fiscal spending multiplier in this scenario is going to be 1 over 0.2, which is also just 1/5. So if we convert that into 1/5, we can quickly do the algebra, and then that's 5. Okay. Here we've got negative 0.8 divided by 0.2. So that's easier to leave it decimals there. And we get -4. Okay. So the effect of cutting taxes is a little bit less mathematically, and that's because we can save some of it. Okay. And if you were to say, the state that you were in spends $100 billion versus $100 billion in tax cuts, which one's going to have a bigger effect? We're just going to multiply whatever the multiplier is. So in terms of spending, it's 100 billion times 5, because that's the spending multiplier. So we get 500 billion dollars in additional spending injected into the economy, and versus this is times -4. So we would get 400 billion. Okay, so spending is more. Now we're not saying whether which one's better or not. We're just empirically saying which one has a bigger effect.